This program may contain mature subject matter, including frank discussions of controversial topics. It is intended for mature, open-minded audiences. Discretion is highly advised. This program is entirely independently produced by and is copyrighted by Frank 2005. It is broadcast here under license.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. On today's show, we have the man who has appeared at both CliffsList Conventions. He's also been interviewed by David D'Angelo. He has 2 CDs out. One is Will on Approaching. Another one he'll be telling us about during the show. He was also good enough to be on Frank Talks previously during our How to Pick Up and Get Laid on New Year's Eve show. He runs a website called youaresoinmyway.com. He is the one, the only, Will. Welcome to Frank Talks, Will.
What's going on, man?
All right, on today's show that we're going to be doing a special expose on our good friend, Will. So, Will, let's start off with some of the basic questions. Where were you born? And tell us a little bit about your upbringing, which eventually led you to becoming a seduction guru.
Wow. Well, I was born in the Bronx, New York, so I'm a New York kid. And my father was a politician and my mom was a teacher, which basically meant they never agreed on anything. So, what really got me into the seduction community was when I was in college. I was too young. I got to college around 16. So basically, I was too young to do anything. Couldn't drink, couldn't drive, couldn't go nowhere. Basically, I just stayed in my dorm room. So I did a lot of reading. Because I figured, well, eventually there's going to come a time where I am going to have to deal with women, so I want to be good and prepared when it happens. And so eventually people started asking me for advice, or because they saw how girls would come up to me for no reason. Usually they asked directions at first, but they was coming up to me. So people would ask me, how'd you do that? And that's pretty much how I got my start.
Would you say that you were not very good with women prior to being 16 and studying?
I couldn't pick up a napkin for that time. I was horrible. I mean, plus I was a skinny kid. I mean, I was so skinny. If I wore pinstripe pajamas, they looked solid. I mean, it was bad. You know? I mean, I had a lot of issues going on I had to straighten out.
You know, I've met you. We've hung out at the CliffsList convention. I can't ever imagine you being that skinny, because you're a very big and now intimidating man. And how did you go from where you were to where you are now in that respect?
Well, I started playing basketball, and my coach pulled me aside and said, if you want to be good at this sport, you're going to have to gain some weight. So I worked a summer job, and my last bit of money from my summer job, I bought a weight bench. And I used that, and I started taking chocolate weight gain and drinking a gallon of milk a day. And basically I went from 6'1", 125. Actually, I looked like an Ethiopian that did push-ups at that point. But to 6'5", 240.
Wow.
So that was my resurrection from that.
So tell me something. As you put on more weight and as you put on more muscle, did you find that you were naturally getting more attention from women, or was that just, a side effect and it was, your inner game that was attracting the women?
Actually, I did get a little bit more attention, but the fact that I didn't really have any inner game to go with it kind of killed any of the attention that I got. It's kind of like you see a nice car, and then you look under the hood, and you're like, well, it looked nice. Let's move on to something else.
And would you get, blown out a set? That, or, give me an example of a woman finding out you had no inner game and what her reaction was.
Well, basically, they could tell just by the way I approached them, the way I walked up to them, and how I wouldn't have anything to say, after hi. I would get all shy and apprehensive, hesitant, not unsure of myself. I mean, listen, I can go on. It's pretty bad.
You see, knowing what I know about you now, it's very difficult for me to think of you in the terms you've just described. So can you tell me a little bit about your development from being really poor with women to having the confidence you exude now?
Basically, it was a lot of crash and burns. What I did, I tried to mimic a lot of other people, a lot of guys that I thought were good with women. For instance, we would go to the club or a college party, and I would just sit and watch people. I'd watch the guys who would go up to girls and the ones that allegedly had success with them. I had no clue what they were saying. To this day, I still don't know what the hell they said. But I would imitate their body language and their mannerisms, and So I also learned at that point, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Let's explore that particular idea. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Give me an example of something that these guys were doing that worked. And since you didn't know what they said, tell me about the things that they were doing. Give me details, if you can, about how they were saying it.
Okay, well, since I really don't know what they were saying, I could tell that the way they were projecting, they weren't yelling. They got real close to talk to the girl, number one. Almost where their lips were touching her cheek while they were talking. And I learned that you can do that, and you don't even have to be by her ear. It's better to be on her cheek because she'll be able to hear you, because basically she'll be reading your lips off of her cheek.
So when talking to a girl, and I'm assuming we're talking about a club environment where the music is loud.
Music. I wouldn't recommend going doing that on the street. That can lead to bad things.
Unless you like getting slapped in the face and being chased out of places. All right, so if we're in a club, music is blaring, I want to talk to a girl. I shouldn't talk into her ear. I should talk with my lips brushing up against her cheek. So,
yeah. And I would recommend after the second or third time, you get closer and closer till that's where you wind up. I wouldn't say start off there, but you gradually move to where you've gone over so many times that it justifies you being able to get that close, because she can't really hear you, and you don't want to yell in her ear.
Okay, so you don't go right into her face to talk to her. You don't go right into the cheek. You actually start from a distance and just...
Right. You start with the ear and you work your way down.
And she can actually hear you better if you talk into her cheek than directly into her ear.
Right, and there's no reverberation. You know, like when someone yells in your ear and you got to, jump back because it hurts.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
One of the things that you had talked about earlier, you were mimicking or modeling these guys that you believed were good with women. You did what they did in terms of their body language, in terms of the way they held themselves. The fact is, though, because you didn't really know what to say, nor did you really have an idea of what you were doing, at least when you started.
Right.
You must have gotten rejected a lot when you first started.
Actually, I wouldn't say I got rejected. I think they turned me down politely, more so than just straight out rejected me. Because I guess the fact that I had enough courage to walk up to them and try and carry on a conversation, I got lots of brownie points. But
brownie points is not enough.
Not at all. Nah, brownie points don't do anything for you.
Did you ever get a phone number from just brownie points?
Not in the beginning. Not in the beginning. They would magically have boyfriends, or it was really nice talking to you, or that kind of stuff.
So how did you handle that kind of rejection? And remember, we're talking about guys who are starting out with this early in their development. How do you just plow through and just keep going when you keep getting blown off?
Well, for starters, dating is almost like politics. I mean, basically, you're out there campaigning. You're sitting there, putting your bid in, talking to enough women, and the